Hi everyone, this is Chandra from How Chandra Does Food, and welcome to another week of dinners. These are some early spring dinners. So I have a chicken that I have broken down, and I am salting all of the pieces, and I'll use them throughout the week. For this first dinner, I will use the legs, so the thighs and the drumsticks. But I like to get it all salted and in the refrigerator when I get a chance to break that down, and then they are ready to go when I'm ready to use them. So I'm getting out the legs cut into 4 pieces, and I'm going to bake those in the oven. This is an Garten recipe that I can link below. So I'm just putting a little olive oil on them, and those will go into the oven while I get the pan sauce going. Into my pan, I'm adding some ghee and some onion, a little bit of olive oil as well, some onion, and then I have some leeks that I thawed these are from my garden last summer, and since it is early spring and the fresh vegetables are going to start coming pretty soon, I'm really taking a look in my freezer and making sure that I'm using up things from in there. So I have leeks to use today. I'm just adding all of my onion ends and skins into this bag, and once I have 2 chicken carcasses, I will make stock and add in all those vegetable ends as well. So I've put some stock into my little pan sauce here, and then I'm also using, in place of cream or milk, I'm using some kefir. So it still will have that creamy element, but all of the lactose has been removed by the action of the microbes in the kefir. So that worked really well. It broke a little bit, but not enough to matter. It still looked fine in the finished product. I'm sprinkling over some thyme, and then this will go in the oven to finish cooking. This beautiful fat from the chicken will definitely be saved. I love to have a collection of fats in the refrigerator, and I pull them out for everything, but they're especially good on potatoes, French fries, just roasted potatoes, any kind of potato you can imagine. Now I'm going to make some rice to have this with, and I try to almost always make my rice with some sort of stock, usually chicken stock because it's the most mild, just for the extra nutrients that then get in there. I use warm water and I agitate the rice to clean it, and that really gets a lot of the starch off so the rice is not as sticky. I'll do that until the water runs pretty clear, probably 6 or 7 times. Also, I am looking at, and I was looking at while I was doing this, how dirty this sink is. So I'm going to show you me cleaning this up so you know it gets done. Our winter salads are often just greens and carrots, but I had some beets this time, so I grated those up as well. So we have fancy salads tonight. Joe added some cheese to his as well. And here is Monday night's dinner. So tonight I am making chicken marsala, although we do not use any marsala wine in our chicken marsala, just chicken broth. So this is earlier in the day, as I like to do as much prep as I can leading up to dinner time. So this is the middle of the day and I'm going to chop up these mushrooms and get them back in the refrigerator, as well as the onions, so that when I'm ready to make dinner, it is so much quicker. Now it is evening time and I'm ready to start. I have that chicken breast already prepped from the day before and salted. So I'm gonna get that out and get it searing in the pan. I do not find a need to add fat or oil of any sort to the pan when there's skin on the chicken, because that will render. So I do that side first, which can make sense anyway for browning wise. And there'll be plenty of fat by the time I turn it over to cook that chicken without it sticking. I did this this night the way I usually do it, which is to add the chicken stock and just let it simmer on the stovetop until the chicken is cooked through. It takes a while, and it's fine because it's essentially braising. It doesn't dry out because it's surrounded by a liquid. But I think in the future I might try sticking this in the oven and finishing it that way, because the warmer air all around would help with it cooking faster, and who cares if the skin gets crispier, which it doesn't do when it's just simmering away on the stovetop. But at any rate, this worked just fine, and once the chicken was done, I took it out and sprinkled some cassava flour onto my stock and mushroom and onion mixture just to thicken that up really quickly. And delicious. I guess maybe you can't call it chicken marsala because there's no marsala, but we call it that anyway. So we have rice again with this left over from the night before. Okay, Wednesday night this week is a big salad night, which for us, a big salad means greens, of course. We do hard-boiled eggs. If Joe is lucky, there's cottage cheese. There was not this time. What else? We do bacon, and then every kind of vegetable that I can rustle up from the refrigerator. We usually open a jar of pickled beets if there's not one open already, and I make a honey mustard dressing, and that is a big salad. This honey mustard dressing is very easy and delicious. It is pretty much equal parts apple cider vinegar, Dijon mustard, honey, and olive oil, and I measure it right in a mason jar that has the measurements on the sides, some salt, and then just shake it up and refrigerate it until dinner time. This is around the middle of the day that I'm making these eggs and dressing. When I'm making a lot of bacon, which I certainly am tonight, and even so, there was nothing left over, I always do it in the oven in a baking dish like this. It's so much less messy. It does take a little longer sometimes, but if you can just put it in there and forget about it, which is what you can do, it doesn't matter that it takes a little longer. I'm also going to make some croutons. So I'm slicing off some pieces of this bread. I'll cube them up and toast them in the oven with some olive oil, salt, and pepper. Big salads are so pretty. So here I am scoring the fat on a pork roast. And this recipe is barely even a recipe, but I'm reading this cookbook. It's kind of like a cookbook / memoir by Ruth Reichel. And she did a pork roast, and it's essentially just pork and a bunch of onions slowly cooked in the oven. Not terribly revolutionary, but it was so good, and the onions were incredible because they were caramelized, and it was like the best pork roast I've ever had. It was just those two things, pork and onions, salt and pepper, and that was really good. So before I put it into the oven, I am browning all of the sides of this roast for the flavor, and that'll be it. I'll cook the onions in that pan with the roast removed just to deglaze it. We are going to have this pork in tacos, so I'm making a quick slaw with cabbage, and then I'll use the leftover beets and carrots from our big salad the previous night. I don't have any fresh limes, but I do have this frozen lime juice that I will pop into that slaw and just kind of let thaw over the rest of the day. Now the pork roast had finished cooking earlier, and I let it cool down, and then I put it into the refrigerator so the fat would congeal and was easier to scoop off the top. Now most of that fat was really combined with the onions, so I ended up scooping it all out into a pan, putting the heat back on so it would all melt and be pourable, so I could separate the onions from the liquids and then the stock from the fat. So I saved that stock, put it back in the pan along with a little bit more stock that I had in the refrigerator. I think it might even have been beef stock that I used. So this can all just reheat in the oven for our dinner of tacos tonight. Now I am making the tortilla shells out of cassava flour, which once you've done this a few times, it is fast. I can do this in less than half an hour. So it's 2 parts flour to 1 part warm water, and then about 1/3 of the amount of water. I use that amount of fat. In this case, I use the fat that I had just pulled off of that pork roast, but sometimes I'll use avocado oil, whatever's easy. And then of course, a big pinch of salt. Then I divide this into a disc and cut it into triangles to make even parts. I made some pickled onions to go with this, and actually there was a lot of slaw left over, so I put that in a jar with a bunch of salt, and it turned into some really nice sauerkraut. So for our Friday night dinner, which we tried to do something easy, we had that leftover pork roast and are going to have burrito bowls. So I'm making some Spanish rice, which is just some sauteed onions. I put salsa in, garlic, rice, paprika, salt, pepper, and just bake that in the oven until the rice is cooked through, and it just makes it feel like something different. really like sweet potato fries in a burrito bowl, so I'm making those. When I want to use a fat that has been in the refrigerator so it is solid, I'll stick it on top, put those in the oven for just a few minutes until it can melt, and then I'll take them out and toss them quickly before putting them back in.